I was 15, and I had a boyfriend who lived 8 miles from my house. We used to sneak out and visit each other at night, but didn't have any cars, so we would walk. He'd walk to my house, or I'd walk to his. One of these nights, I had visited his place, and it was getting late, around 2 or 3, so I left. I started down the main road, as usual, when I heard a car slow down behind me. I looked to my left, and saw an older car pull up next to me. The guy looked young. Older than me, but still in his 20s. He asked me if I wanted a ride. I said, "No thanks, I'm good." He asked again, and I thought about how I had just started my walk and how much farther I had to go. I thought, fuck it. So I jumped in his car, happy to skip the trek. The first thing I noticed while inside was a strong scent of alcohol in the air. It was so strong. He was also staring at me so hard that he swerved and hit a ditch in the side of the road. "Watch it!" I yelled. I was a smart-ass teenager back then. He just gave me a goofy, drunken smile. He was driving really slow, too. Not sure why, but out of all the red flags that had presented themselves, it was his super slow driving that bothered me the most. I'm just going to stop here and remind you guys that I was a really naive 15-year-old. Up until this point, I was just annoyed with this dude. Nothing more. I had told him to go straight on this road for a few more miles, when he slowly turned right into a small street. Immediately I said, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" I said I live that way.
"We're going to my friend's house."
I said, "Fuck no, take me home." He just ignored me and kept staring at me while driving super slow. I demanded that he stop the car, and he ignored me again. Pissed off now, I opened my door and jumped out of the moving car. I fell hard and got up and started walking away angrily. He was already out of his car and had crossed my path. He clutched my arm so hard and pulled me to his car. He sat in the driver's seat and told me to crawl over to him into the passenger. I pulled and yanked, but he was too strong. This is finally when I started to get scared in the situation. He wasn't letting me go, and was basically trying to kidnap me. A horrible feeling of dread just washed over me. I was looking at the moon. It looked so big and beautiful. So many nights I had marveled at its beauty, but I felt now that it was bearing witness to my demise. I burst out crying. When I did, he reflexively loosened his grip on me, and I saw it as a chance to fucking run. I lived in a small town, so we had fields of orchards and crops between residential areas. I broke free from him, and ran straight into a cornfield that was off the right of the road. He yelled at me to stop and started chasing me. The stalks were taller than me, so I ran in zigzags through them, trying to lose him. I lost a boot in all that dirt. He was falling farther behind me. After the field ended, there was an abandoned house that sat right next to the road. I banged on the door, hoping that maybe I had only thought it was abandoned. There was no answer. Surrounding the house, there were flat fields, and just the main road. I couldn't take any chances running through those, because the moon was so bright that night, and I was sure that he would have seen me. So I climbed a huge tree in front of the house, just hoping that he wouldn't see me. He came out of the cornfields, and I could see him looking all around for me. I was so terrified. I could only cry as silently as I could, praying that he wouldn't look up. After a while, he gave up and walked back to his car. I thought that was the end of it, but he got in his car and drove up and down the main road looking for me. I was up in the tree so long I was starting to get physically tired. I couldn't believe how hard he was looking for me. Sometimes he would get out of the car and look deeper into areas off the road. Then he'd jump back in his car and go up, then down, really fast and really slow. After a few hours, he finally disappeared. 30 minutes passed without seeing his car, and it was then that I decided to head home. Again, because the moon was so bright and the fields ahead were so low, I literally low-crawled through them, scared shitless that he might show up, see me off the main road, and chase me again. When I got home it was dawn, and I was shoeless and covered in dirt. Grateful to be home, still. Needless to say, I never walked that street alone again at night. This started a few months back. I'm 16, 6'2", and 230 pounds. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, so I love exploring the surrounding forest. I've taken to lumberjacking, using the wood for various projects or just for fire. It's a good way to relieve stress, and I enjoy being outside. So a few months ago, I was chopping down a pine tree to use for a project. About halfway through chopping, I stopped to take a break. I was about half a mile from my house, so I sat down on a stump, drank some water, and listened to the sounds of the woods. If you've ever lived anywhere like this, you know how easy it is to forget about everything and just close your eyes, which is exactly what happened. I didn't fall asleep, or at least I don't think I did. I opened my eyes and stood up again, heading back to the tree, and I see this person standing about 100 feet or so away from me. Black hoodie, blue jeans, hood pulled up over their head. It startled me, but I didn't really think too much of it. It was fall, and people like to walk through the forests, especially during this season. As soon as they knew I saw them, they ran. It didn't really surprise me. 6-foot guy in the woods with an axe? Not exactly someone you want to be alone with. So I get back to chopping the tree. After it's felled, I start sectioning it, preparing to haul it back the next day, as it was getting closer to night about now. It was probably around 7 when I finished. I packed up and started heading back towards my house. I've always been an alert person, especially outside. There was always an animal to listen to and see bound into the underbrush, so I always kept watch. It's nice to hear squirrels chattering and dashing up the trees, seeing their tails bob. And then I spotted the person again, standing at the edge of a small clearing. They were facing away from me. Again, it's not unusual for people to roam the woods around here, especially at this time of year. For some reason, though, I got a bad feeling. I'm a rather paranoid person. I don't mind it though, it's not crippling and it saved my ass more than a few times. So I continued to walk. I kept my pace, not wanting to rustle up the leaves like an idiot and alert them. They didn't seem to notice me, though I thought they glanced at me a few times. I never saw their face, so I brushed it off as my mind playing tricks. So I get back home. No horror story about being dragged away into the woods, though I was a bit unsettled by the silence from them. People around here are very open and happy, save for one family, but that's because they live out here to get away from people. Besides, they have no kids. I put my things away, ate dinner, and sat down on my computer. Now, my computer is in my living room, a few feet from my back door, which is made out of glass. I've got a view of about half my back porch, and can get to the lights pretty quickly. It was a Saturday night, so I decided to stay up late playing games. Nothing felt off for a while, and I had pretty much forgotten about earlier. My dog started barking. Not unusual. I live in the country, so all sorts of animals wander onto my back porch and into the backyard, and the dogs see them out the back door. Usually just an opossum moseying around. But there's this light tap at the glass. I jump, seeing a face pressed against the door. The rest of him was hidden by darkness, only parts of his face showing. Nose, chin, forehead, and a bit of brown hair. It was dark out, so I couldn't see much else. I've always been a rather violent person, and don't take to people being aggressive or stalking around lightly. I turned on the light and grabbed my axe, swinging open the door. It was a bit stupid since he could have had a knife, but I wasn't too worried about it. I wasn't really worried about a gun because if he were going to shoot me, he could have just done it through the glass. I bashed him in the chest with the handle of the axe, sending him stumbling back against the railing of the porch. After a few seconds, he ran for the yard and sprinted out into the darkness. I've seen him a few times since, always in the woods. Different clothes, but always some sort of hood. He usually books it when I see him. If not, I grab my axe and run towards him, which always sends him sprinting off hurriedly. I haven't told my family or the police. They would just worry, and I don't see what the police could do about some guy just walking around in the woods. As far as I could tell, he didn't have any sort of weapon on him, and was just dressed casually roaming through the woods. I would probably just look like I'm the crazy one. He hasn't come to the house since. In fact, I never see him past the tree line. There's a large network of heavily cut and managed trails up there that people use for logging. I've got no doubt that he uses those. You could easily slip away from view and be halfway down one before someone managed to stumble onto one. I have considered walking these paths, or yelling out to him to explain. I was actually thinking about shooting him for a while. He is on my father's land after all, and there are signs about trespassing. He vanished though. After about a month of this, he disappeared, and I haven't seen him since. Here's some background information before I launch into the first story. At the time of this encounter, I was 16 and participating in an exchange program. My high school in America was partnered with a high school in Germany. I've been learning Germany since kindergarten. And every year, about 10 or so kids from the German program at my high school get to go and live in Germany with the host family for the summer. My exchange partner, Vanessa, and I got along great. As it turned out, my best friend Rebecca was on the exchange with me, and her exchange partner, Anne Catherine, was best friends with Vanessa. Needless to say, the four of us were practically inseparable. One day we decided to head into Nuremberg to do some shopping. Vanessa and Anne Catherine lived on the same street, so the four of us walked to the little subway train station thing by our house. They lived about 10 minutes outside the city, so the subway train ride wasn't long at all. As we were taking the escalator down to catch the subway, we hear someone whistling at us. Thinking it would be some dumb boy messing around, we look around to see who it was. We hear the whistling sound again and lock eyes with the man riding on the up escalator. We were on the down one, so we locked eyes right as we passed each other. The man was probably in his late 50s or early 60s, and he was huge. I would guess around 6'7" in height, and easily close to 300 pounds. Stupidly, the four of us wave at him. We were just messing around and didn't think the guy would think anything of it. Much to our chagrin, he took it as an invitation to begin terrorizing us. Suddenly he starts sprinting up the escalator, and once he gets to the top, gets on the down escalator and starts shoving people out of the way to get to us. For a big guy, this dude was moving fast. It was apparent that he wanted to get to us, though the people surrounding us probably thought he had left something on the train and wanted to get to it before it was too late. At this point, we were basically at the bottom, so we take off running, and by the grace of God, the train we needed had already pulled up. We run onto the train and sit down, relieved that we got away from this scary guy. Or so we thought. The train we were on was separated into sections, so there were see-through doors that you had to go through if you wanted to get to a different section, if that makes sense. About a minute into our subway ride, we see the guy moving through the section in front of ours. We immediately stand up and sprint to the next section, hoping that we'll find a more crowded one that we can hide in. This goes on for a few more minutes, until we realize that we've reached the front of the train. We sit down in the 4 seats closest to the front, and sure enough, the man comes barging into our section. He sits in a single seat across from us, and positions himself so he has a clear view of us. Then he starts laughing really deep and slow. We were trying so hard not to look at him, but out of the corner of my eye, I could see that his eyes were unblinking and bulging out of his head. He was grinning in such a malicious way, and he had started to drool. He even licked his lips a few times. We started whispering in English to each other, hoping that this guy's English wasn't that strong, and we decide that at our stop, we're going to sprint off the train and find a policeman or someone who can help us. The train gets to our stop, and we bolt off of the train. Luckily, our stop is pretty crowded, so we're hoping to duck out of sight and then find someone who will help us. We turn around and make sure he isn't behind us, and the guy hasn't gotten off the train, but he's shifted so that he has a clear view of us from the window by his seat. We watch for a little, and the train begins to pull away, but not before the man widens his smile and begins slowly waving at us. I swear he didn't break eye contact or stop waving until the train was entirely out of sight. I don't really know what this guy wanted with us, or why he was so hell-bent on chasing us through the train. Maybe he was planning on getting off at our stop with us, but then saw how crowded it was and decided to just stay on the train because he knew he wouldn't get away with whatever he was plotting. All I know is that I was absolutely scared shitless. I was working at a skating rink back in 2013, and I absolutely loved it. Working behind the snack bar was easy, and I usually made pretty good tips. After about a year of working there, I had become accustomed to random dads hitting on me, creepy teenagers staring at me, and the like. Even when I was hosting a child's 6th birthday party, the dads would make sexual comments or make me the butt of their dirty jokes. Yeah, whatever. Women get used to that sort of thing after a while. Flash forward to summer 2014. I had just turned 18 and was excited to start being considered an adult. I was working one of the school functions when this older man walks up to the snack bar window.
Damn. Did you know you're gorgeous?
He said, please not now. I have 50 slices of pizza in my hand and a million little brats to keep from falling over. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I smile back. I'm not sure why, but I just can't seem to act well under pressure. especially when it involves another person. I hate feeling awkward or uncomfortable when I'm talking to someone. I always try to be polite and well-mannered because that's just how I was raised.
What's your number? I have to have your number. What is it?
He was being so pushy and excited I already felt uncomfortable. I just kind of looked back at him, then all around me. I just smiled and didn't say anything, hoping he'd just walk away when I didn't seem interested.
Come on, just give me your number. What do you think I am? I'm just being friendly. I'm just paying you a compliment.
Blah blah, yeah right. You know when someone's just trying to make themselves look like a victim to make you feel guilty? That's the way he was acting. After like 4 minutes of me politely declining his offers and refusing to give my number, I broke down and just gave it to him. I figured I could always just ignore the messages like any other loser guy who squeezed my personal information out of me. That same night around 2 a.m., I got a text from a random number.
Hey, yo, this is Jeffrey. Do you remember me from Skate City? Hit me up, I'd love to take you out.
I just ignored every message he sent, still hoping he'd take the hint that a 5'2" 18-year-old would not be interested in a 35-year-old father. But he continued to send me annoying texts every day. Some were about how he'd treat me better than any man has. Sometimes they were about how I was stuck up and owed him a response since I gave him my number. Like somehow he'd forgotten that he had forced it out of me in the first place. This went on for a couple of weeks. Every few days I'd get like 6 texts in a row, and then it would be silent for a couple of days. I wasn't too worried about Jeffrey. I had only seen him the one time at work. Everything else was texts and that's it. Until one night, I had been closing at work. But Sundays were family dinner, where everyone working that night sat down and ate pizza together. So the time is reaching close to 10:30 p.m., and I had been expecting my friend Aaron to come in and help me finish up my deep cleaning list. My phone rang, and it was a number that I hadn't saved. I'm usually too lazy to save numbers in my phone, especially when I don't talk with someone too often. So I picked up the call right away, thinking it was my coworker. Hello? I answered.
Hey, where you at?
A voice said casually. I'm at work closing. Are you here? I'm done vacuuming. I need help, I said, thinking Aaron was running late on me.
Oh, I see you. I got you.
The voice said back. Now after a few seconds on the phone and hearing the voice a couple times, I started to feel uneasy. My stomach flipped, and I felt just a little odd. It didn't sound like Aaron anymore. Aaron? I said, too scared to really say much else.
This ain't Aaron. You remember me?
Fuck. I stood still. I didn't know what to say. I looked at my phone and noticed the number looked similar to Jeffrey's, the one I had been ignoring. Is this Jeffrey? I asked, trying to sound normal.
Yeah, it is. I have a couple of questions for you.
I was silent.
How come you think you're too good for me? How old are you? What the fuck do you think you are here, bitch?
Still silent.
I said, how fucking old are you?
I'm 16. I lied about my age, thinking being underage would scare him away.
Huh. Oh yeah? What year were you born in?
Fuck? What the... I couldn't even move, let alone figure out my fake birth year. I just stuttered, for a couple of seconds before he cut me off.
That's what I thought. How old are you really?
I panicked and then hung up. It felt like my heart was gonna pop out of my fucking chest. The whole thing just made me so uneasy. A few minutes later, I get another call. I don't answer it, but he leaves a voicemail. I'm debating whether I should listen to it now or later. I decided to do it right then.
Your last day never feels like your last day.
Right away, I start freaking out. I mean, to me it sounds like this guy's gonna fucking kill me. I go call my dad and boom, the phone goes dead. Now I'm really losing my shit. Jeffrey only knows a few things about me at this point. I work at a skate rink, I'm closing tonight, and I'm not really 16. The worst scenarios are running through my head as I'm trying to get a hold of my dad. Finally, he picks up and agrees to take me home. We decide to leave my car there just in case. My dad said if someone were there waiting for me, they could watch me get into my car and follow me home. When he pulls up to the building, I run to the passenger side door and hop in. Now, being an employee, I'm sure a lot of you have the employee parking. Well, ours was around the corner of the building, next to an empty wooded area and a little stream, so it's very dark at night due to the lack of lighting. As we pull out of the parking lot, my dad and I both look towards my car. Up against the building, is a tall, dark-clothed guy just adjacent of my car. I start freaking out. My dad calls the cops, explaining everything that happened. Luckily, our friend Wes is a cop, and he happened to be one of the cars that pulled up to the scene. We just kept driving home, hoping the cops would take care of it and my car would be safe. We got home that night, and I plugged in my phone. A text came from Jeffrey's number.
I'll have to wait then.
The next day, Wes calls my dad. He said that the man he talked to was named Jeffrey. Can't share his real name, obviously. He said that they went up and talked to him, saying there was a call for suspicious behavior. He told them that he was just waiting for his girlfriend. Wes told Jeffrey that he was aware that he was harassing me, and that was my car he was lingering in front of. He asked Jeffrey about the voicemail, and told him that the PD could consider it a threat. Jeffrey said something like,
"That's just my motto."
or some dumb shit like that. Wes told Jeffrey that contacting me in any way would be considered harassment, and that he would be taken to jail if he tried to see or speak with me in any form. I never heard from Jeffrey again after that. Hey guys, Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you all for watching the video, especially if you made it to the end. If you liked the video, please feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. If you have any constructive criticism, please feel free to leave a comment below and tell me what I can do to improve, because I'm always looking to provide you guys with better and better content. Also, if you have any stories you'd like me to read or any stories that you want to send in that are your personal stories, please feel free to send them to either my Facebook, Twitter, or my Gmail account. All of them are in the description of the video below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.